change. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a moment in every life when the truth walks into the room quietly, without applause, without fanfare, without warning. And it asks a question that changes everything. It means, what kind of person are you becoming while you are trying to get what you want? That is the question. Not how much you want, not how hard you are wishing, not how many times you have spoken your dream out loud. But what kind of person are you becoming? Because wealth is not merely something you earn. Wealth is something you practice. Wealth is something you build in the small, invisible, ordinary moments when nobody is watching. Wealth is a habit, and habits are powerful because habits do not care about your mood. Habits do not care whether you feel inspired. Habits do not care whether you got a compliment, a promotion, a like, a message, or a round of applause. Habits keep showing up. Habits keep working. Habits keep shaping the future long before the future arrives. Now, let me ask you something that deserves an honest answer. How many people do you know who want a wealthy life but live a careless life? How many people dream of abundance while practicing procrastination? How many people speak of success while entertaining distraction? How many people want financial freedom but refuse to learn financial discipline? How many people crave respect but keep borrowing their self-worth from strangers? That is not wealth. That is wishful thinking in expensive clothing. Wealth is a habit. You do not stumble into a great life by accident. Means you do not drift into power. You do not wander into excellence. You do not float into freedom. You arrive there through repetition, through choices, through standards, change, through the daily agreement you make with yourself that your life will not be ruled by impulse, by comfort, by laziness, by comparison, or by the fear of being misunderstood. We live in a world that sells shortcuts with a smile. It tells you, change, get rich quick. It tells you, be famous fast. It tells you, skip the work, skip the waiting, skip the patience, skip the pain. But the truth is older than the noise. The truth is sturdier than the trend. The truth is that every durable fortune, every lasting success, every meaningful life has a foundation, and that foundation is habit. You see, wealth is not only dollars. Wealth is also character. Wealth is also peace. Wealth is also time. Wealth is also self-control. Wealth is also the ability to wake up without begging the world to approve of you. Wealth is the freedom to say no to what weakens you and yes to what strengthens you. Wealth is the quiet confidence that you do not need to chase every crowd because you are building something real. And let me tell you something. A person can be surrounded by money and still be poor in the places that matter most. Poor in discipline, poor in peace, poor in integrity, poor in purpose, poor in emotional strength, poor in self-respect. But a person who has learned how to govern their own mind, their own habits, their own reactions, their own spending, their own attention and their own appetite for approval, that person is already wealthy in a way that cannot be stolen overnight. Wealth is a habit. Now, habits are born in the little things. The little things you ignore become the big things you cannot ignore. The small expenses, the small excuses, the small delays, the small lies, the small choices that nobody sees except you and your future. That is where wealth is made or lost. Not in one dramatic event, not in one lucky break, not in one emotional speech, but in the quiet, repeated decisions that shape your direction. There is a powerful truth here. Your future is being negotiated by your present habits. Every day you either deposit into your future or withdraw from it. Every day you either strengthen your future or weaken it. Every day you either become the person who can sustain wealth or the person who will leak it through indiscipline. Every day you either train your appetite for growth or feed your appetite for convenience. Every day you either build confidence through competence or weaken confidence through avoidance. And this is why self-respect matters so much. Because self-respect is the foundation of every disciplined habit. When you truly respect yourself, you stop treating your life like it is disposable. You stop wasting your energy on what damages you. You stop pretending that tomorrow will rescue what today refuses to repair. You stop speaking lightly about your potential. You stop making peace with patterns that keep you powerless. Self-respect says, I am worth the effort. Self-respect says, my future deserves my attention. Self-respect says, I will not betray myself for a moment of comfort. Self-respect says, I will not live beneath my standard just to be accepted by people who do not carry my burden. Change. And that is where emotional independence enters the room like a guardian, because one of the greatest thieves of wealth is not poverty, not competition, not bad luck. One of the greatest thieves is the need to be validated by everyone around you. The need for approval is expensive. It will make you buy what you do not need. It will make you perform instead of persist. It will make you speak when you should be silent and stay silent when you should speak. It will make you shape your goals around other people's opinions. It will make you trade long-term strength for short-term acceptance. Tell me, how can a person build a strong life if every decision must pass through the courtroom of public opinion? How can a person stay focused if they are constantly checking who clapped? How can a person stay disciplined if they are always asking, do they like me? How can a person grow if they are terrified of looking awkward while growing? Emotional independence is not arrogance. Emotional independence is maturity. It means you do not need the room to agree with your destiny before you begin. It means you can work in silence. It means you can build without broadcasting every move. It means you can keep your heart steady when praise comes and when criticism comes, because you know who you are, and more importantly, you know what you are becoming. A wealthy person is not enslaved by the moods of strangers. A wealthy person is not thrown off course by the laughter of the insecure. A wealthy person is not confused by temporary applause. A wealthy person can hear advice without becoming dependent on it. Can hear criticism without collapsing under it. Can hear silence without panicking. Can hear rejection and still remain rooted in purpose. That kind of inner stability is not accidental. It is practiced. It is learned. It is trained. And that training begins with discipline. Discipline is the bridge between intention and result. Discipline is the daily vote you cast for your future. Discipline is what you do when motivation is absent, but commitment is present. Discipline is the habit of doing the right thing even when the right thing is not thrilling. Discipline is the muscle that turns dreams into systems. Let me put it plainly. A dream without discipline is a decoration. A vision without discipline is a conversation. A goal without discipline is entertainment. But discipline is power. Wealth is a habit, and habits are built through discipline. The disciplined person does not wait for a perfect day. The disciplined person creates progress in imperfect conditions. They save when others spend without thinking. They learn when others merely scroll. They invest when others merely impress. They work when others merely talk. They rest when necessary, yes, but they do not live in a permanent vacation from responsibility. There is a law in life that does not bend to emotion. Repeated effort becomes identity. What you repeatedly do becomes what you repeatedly believe. And what you repeatedly believe becomes what you repeatedly allow. And what you repeatedly allow becomes what you repeatedly live. That is why the path to wealth is not first a financial path. It is a character path. A person who cannot control a small impulse will struggle to control a larger life. A person who cannot say no to one unnecessary purchase will struggle to say no to 1,000 unnecessary temptations. A person who cannot manage an hour cannot manage a destiny. A person who cannot keep a promise to themselves will have difficulty keeping a promise to the world. So ask yourself, what are your habits saying about your future? What are your mornings saying? What are your evenings saying? What is your relationship with time saying? What is your relationship with money saying? What is your relationship with focus saying? What is your relationship with your own word saying? Because wealth is not built by wishful identity. Wealth is built by repetitive behavior. A seed does not become a tree because it feels inspired. It becomes a tree because it stays in the soil and follows the law of growth. The seed does not beg the weather to be kind. It does not insult the roots for being invisible. It does not quit because progress is slow. It simply grows. That is the lesson. We live in a generation that celebrates the visible and ignores the vital. People love the result, but they mock the process. They admire the mansion, but not the miles of discipline that built it. They applaud the confidence, but not the lonely mornings that developed it. They desire the harvest, but not the seasons of sowing. Yet life always honors what is repeated with conviction. And if you want wealth, not just in money, but in strength, in purpose, in peace, in dignity, then you must become a repeatable person. A person whose values do not change with the weather. A person whose standards do not collapse under pressure. A person whose habits are not ruled by appetite but aligned with destiny. Now let us talk about purpose, because money without purpose is a dangerous thing. It can amplify confusion. It can magnify emptiness. It can make a distracted life more comfortable, but not more meaningful. Purpose gives wealth its assignment. Purpose tells money where to go, what to build, whom to serve, and what to protect. Why do you want wealth? For what? For whom? For what cause? For what life? For what legacy? Those are not small questions. Those are the questions that rescue money from vanity and place it in the service of vision. A person with purpose can work harder without becoming harder. A person with purpose can earn more without losing their soul. A person with purpose can succeed without becoming selfish. A person with purpose can create abundance and still remain generous, grounded, and grateful. Purpose turns wealth from a trophy into a tool. Purpose says, I am not just trying to have more, I am trying to become more. Purpose says, I am not chasing money to impress people. I am building a life that reflects my principles. Purpose says, I want enough not so I can live above others, but so I can live responsibly, freely, and usefully. That is the kind of thinking that builds lasting prosperity. And here is another truth, one many people avoid because it confronts them too. Directly, your circle will either strengthen your habits or weaken them. Your environment is never neutral. The voices around you matter. The examples around you matter. The standards around you matter. If you spend all your time in a room where excuses are normal, discipline will feel strange. If you spend all your time around people who mock ambition, ambition will feel lonely. If you spend all your time around people who celebrate distraction, focus will feel unnatural. But when you place yourself around growth, responsibility, integrity, and purpose, something changes. You begin to think differently. You begin to expect more of yourself. You begin to respect your own time. You begin to protect your attention. You begin to understand that the people you choose are helping shape your habits. Wealth is a habit, but habits are contagious. Excellence is contagious. Laziness is contagious. Courage is contagious. Complaining is contagious. Gratitude is contagious. Make no mistake about it, your future is listening. That is why it matters so much that you choose influences carefully. Not every voice deserves authority. Not every opinion deserves your energy. Not every crowd deserves your loyalty. Some people will celebrate your excuses because your excuses make them comfortable. Some people will minimize your dreams because your dreams make them confront their own inactivity. Some people will prefer the version of you that stays small because your growth exposes what they have refused to confront in themselves. You must become emotionally independent enough to keep growing even when growth makes you unpopular. That is not rebellion. That is maturity, because the mature person understands something powerful. Approval is not the same as achievement. Attention is not the same as value. Being watched is not the same as being fulfilled. It means you can be admired and still be drifting. You can be applauded and still be empty. You can be noticed and still be lost. But if you learn to stand on the foundation of purpose and discipline, then no amount of applause can confuse you. And no amount of criticism can destroy you. Let me say it another way. Your life becomes rich when your inner world stops asking strangers to define it. Think about that. Your life becomes rich when your inner world becomes strong enough to stand without constant reassurance. Your life becomes rich when you can sit in silence and still know your worth. Your life becomes rich when you no longer need to compare your progress to someone else's highlight reel. Your life becomes rich when you can celebrate another person's success without envying them. Your life becomes rich when you can say, I am not behind, I am becoming. What a liberating sentence that is. I am not behind, I am becoming. Because comparison is one of the most expensive addictions on earth. It will make your blessings look small. It will make your progress look slow. It will make your victories look insufficient. It will make your goals feel like embarrassments instead of callings. Comparison will always tell you that your lane is inferior because it wants you to abandon your lane altogether. But wealth, real wealth, begins when you stop measuring your worth by the speed of someone else's journey. You are not in a race to become someone else. You are in a race to become your best self, and that requires patience. Patience is a wealth habit too. The world loves instant results, but great things grow slowly. Iron sharpens iron, but not in a second. Trees do not rush, rivers do not panic, mountains do not hurry, the moon does not force the night to become day. Everything enduring has a rhythm. Everything meaningful has a season. Everything worthwhile asks for consistency. Patience keeps you from quitting too early. Patience keeps you from selling yourself cheap. Patience keeps you from abandoning the process because the process is not glamorous enough. Patience says, I can work before I am celebrated. Patience says, I can learn before I earn. Patience says, I can plant before I harvest. Patience says, I can remain faithful while I am still invisible. And there is great wealth in being invisible for a while, because invisibility is where character is forged. Invisibility is where discipline is tested. Invisibility is where motives are purified. Invisibility is where the ego is humbled. Invisibility is where habits become real. Invisibility is where you find out whether you are doing the work for applause or for growth. Many people want the spotlight, but they are not ready for the shadow work. Many people want the reward, but they are not willing to pay the price. Many people want the title, but not the training. Many people want the outcome, but not the obedience. Yet wealth, whether financial or personal, respects preparation. It honors process. It follows patterns. So build patterns worth repeating. Build a habit of living below your means so you can build above your circumstances. Build the habit of learning every day so your mind becomes an asset. Build the habit of saving before spending so your future is not always begging your present for mercy. Build the habit of keeping your promises so your word becomes reliable. Build the habit of starting before you feel ready so fear does not control your calendar. Build the habit of finishing what you start so your life is not a museum of unfinished intentions. Build the habit of gratitude so abundance is recognized instead of ignored. Build the habit of self-control so your desires serve your purpose instead of sabotaging it. Build the habit of thinking long-term so temporary discomfort does not rob you of permanent gain. Do you see it? Every one of these habits is a brick. A brick may look ordinary. A single brick may not draw applause. But brick by brick, something strong is built. Brick by brick, a foundation is laid. Brick by brick, a house becomes a home. Brick by brick, a life becomes stable. Brick by brick, wealth becomes visible. And when the storms come, what survives? Not hype, not noise, not image. Foundation survives. The person who has built habits has built a foundation. Now I want to speak directly to the one who feels behind. The one who has made mistakes. The one who has started and stopped, the one who has wasted time, the one who has spent money foolishly, the one who has listened to the wrong voices, the one who has been too emotional, too inconsistent, too distracted, too dependent on approval. Listen to me carefully. Your past is a record, not a prison. A record can teach you. A prison only exists if you keep entering it. You are not condemned to repeat what you now understand. You are not chained to the worst decisions you ever made. You are not disqualified because you learned late. You are not doomed because you stumbled early. Many of the strongest lives were built by people who had to learn the hard way that habits matter. The beautiful thing about habits is that they can be changed. Yes, changed. Not instantly perhaps, not effortlessly perhaps, but truly changed. A new pattern can begin today. A new relationship with money can begin today. A new relationship with work can begin today. A new relationship with discipline can begin today. A new relationship with self-respect can begin today. A new relationship with emotional independence can begin today. Do not wait for a new year to become new. Do not wait for a crisis to become serious. Do not wait for the applause to become committed. Do not wait for fear to leave before you move. Do not wait for confidence to arrive before you practice confidence. Confidence is often the result of repeated competence. You do not feel ready and then act. You act, you learn, you improve, and then readiness catches up. You do not become stable by waiting to feel stable. You become stable by doing stable things. That is why wealth is a habit. Because the habits come first, and the results follow. What is confidence but the memory of kept promises? What is self-respect but the evidence that you did not abandon yourself? What is independence but the ability to stand calmly when life asks you to stand alone? What is purpose but the courage to live by design instead of drift? The wealthy mind asks better questions. It does not ask only, how much can I get? It asks, what am I building? It does not ask only, what do they think of me? It asks, am I being true to my values? It does not ask, how fast can I move? It asks, am I moving in the right direction? It does not ask only, can I look successful? It asks, am I becoming successful in a way that can last? And lasting success is the only success worth respecting. Because anything built on weakness will eventually reveal itself. A house built without a foundation may look fine until the weather changes. A life built without discipline may look fine until pressure comes. A reputation built on image may look fine until truth arrives. A bank account can be large and still be fragile if the mind behind it is immature. A person can have status and still be unstable if they have never learned self-governance. But a disciplined mind, a grounded heart, a purposeful spirit, a self-respecting character that is a treasury no thief can steal in a single night. Now let me offer you a practical vision. Imagine waking up with no need to prove yourself. Imagine working with clarity instead of chaos. Imagine spending with intention instead of impulse. Imagine saying no without guilt and yes without hesitation. Imagine building steadily, quietly, confidently. Imagine no longer being embarrassed by the slow pace of growth because you understand that deep roots take time. Imagine being able to meet pressure without panic because your habits have trained you for it. Imagine having enough emotional freedom to celebrate others without shrinking yourself. Imagine being the kind of person whose life feels ordered, focused, and alive. That is wealth too. That is a wealthy spirit. That is a wealthy mind. That is a wealthy way to live. And here's the challenge. Do not reduce your life to consumption. Consumption says, give me more. Creation says, let me build more. Consumption says, entertain me. Creation says, develop me. Consumption says, distract me. Creation says, strengthen me. Consumption says, tell me I matter. Creation says, I will matter by what I make, what I serve, and how I grow. The world is crowded with consumers of attention. Be a creator of value. Be a creator of stability. Be a creator of solutions. Be a creator of habits that make your future proud, because the future is not waiting for your excuses. It is waiting for your pattern. And yes, the pattern can begin with one decision. One decision to wake up and take responsibility. One decision to stop blaming. One decision to stop comparing. One decision to stop begging for permission. One decision to start where you are. It means one decision to build instead of complain. One decision to respect your own time. One decision to save what you should save. One decision to learn what you should learn. One decision to do the work even when the room is quiet. One decision means repeated becomes a habit. A habit repeated becomes a life. A life lived with purpose and discipline becomes wealth. Let me tell you a story in the language of the human heart. There once was a person who looked around and felt that everyone else had more confidence, more money, more support, more advantage, more opportunity. So they waited. They waited to feel chosen. They waited to feel ready. They waited for the right people to notice. They waited for luck to smile. They waited for a sign. But waiting has a price. While they waited, time collected interest against them. Then one day they met a simple truth. Nobody was coming to rescue their habits. And that truth, though painful, was the beginning of freedom. They stopped asking who would fix their life and started asking what they could fix today. They started keeping small promises. They started reading. They started budgeting. They started exercising. They started sleeping better. They started working more intentionally. They started saying no to noise. They started saying yes to growth. They started building self-respect like a craftsman building a bridge. And little by little, life changed, not all at once, not dramatically, not theatrically, but surely. And that is how wealth often arrives, quietly, surely. Changed through habits. So today, stand tall in your own soul. Stop apologizing for your growth. Stop shrinking to make insecure people comfortable. Stop calling chaos normal. Stop calling inconsistency personality. Stop calling your weakness just how I am. You are not trapped in your current state. You are not a finished product. You are under construction. And construction can be messy, dusty, loud, repetitive, slow, change. But what matters is that something is being built. Build with discipline, build with purpose, build with self-respect, build with emotional independence, build with confidence that comes from doing hard things repeatedly. Build with patience, build with integrity, build with the courage to be misunderstood while you grow, build with the wisdom to understand that wealth is not merely a destination. Wealth is a way of living. When you respect yourself, you stop wasting yourself. When you are emotionally independent, you stop handing your identity to other people. When you are disciplined, you stop living at the mercy of your impulses. When you are purposeful, you stop chasing every shiny thing that passes by. When you are confident, you stop waiting for permission to become who you were meant to be. When you are committed to personal growth, you stop worshiping comfort. When you let go of the need for validation, you finally reclaim your attention. And attention, my friends, is one of the greatest currencies of life. Guard your attention, guard your time, guard your energy, guard your standards. Guard your peace, guard your habits, because what you guard grows and what you neglect decays. So let today be the day you stop negotiating with what weakens you. Let today be the day you stop romanticizing inconsistency. Let today be the day you stop living like your future does not matter. Let today be the day you make a solemn, powerful, life-changing agreement with yourself. I will become the person my future can trust. That is the oath. I will become the person my future can trust. Trust to save, trust to work, trust to learn, trust to lead, trust to endure, trust to keep showing up, trust to stay humble, trust to stay focused, trust to stay grateful. Trust to stay disciplined when no one is clapping, because real wealth is built in private before it is seen in public, and the world is full of people who want the public reward without the private repair. Do not be one of them. Be the person who repairs the foundations. Be the person who mends the cracks in attention. Be the person who strengthens character. Be the person who trains patience. Be the person who practices gratitude. Be the person who treats time like treasure. Be the person who understands that a life can only rise as high as its habits allow. Do you want to be rich? Then be rich in consistency. Do you want to be powerful? Then be powerful in discipline. Do you want to be free? Then be free from needing everyone's approval. Do you want to be respected? Then respect yourself enough to live with order. Do you want to be fulfilled? Then align your wealth with purpose. Do you want to win? Then become the kind of person who can win without losing their soul. That is the deeper victory. That is the victory worth fighting for. Not merely to possess more, but to become more. Not merely to display success, but to deserve it. Not merely to appear strong, but to be strong when the lights go off and the room goes quiet. Not merely to have wealth, but to become a person whose habits can carry wealth without crushing the heart. And here, at the end, let me leave you with this. The life you admire in others is usually built on habits you may not yet respect in yourself. The price of greatness is often hidden in the ordinary, in the repeated, in the boring, in the unseen, in the uncelebrated. In the day after day after day that nobody else wants to honor, but you can honor it. You can honor the early morning. You can honor the careful budget. You can honor the extra chapter. You can honor the honest conversation. You can honor the quiet savings. You can honor the hard workout. You can honor the focused hour. You can honor the promise kept. You can honor the temptation refused. You can honor the small victory. You can honor the process. And when you honor the process begins to honor you. So rise above comparison. Rise above approval addiction. Rise above laziness. Rise above emotional dependence. Rise above short-term thinking. Rise above self-doubt. Rise above the version of you that kept settling for less than you were capable of becoming. Rise into discipline. Rise into purpose. Rise into confidence. Rise into self-respect. Rise into emotional freedom. Rise into habits that build a life so solid that storms cannot erase it. And remember this, when the day gets hard and the temptation to quit speaks loudly, wealth is not an event. Wealth is a habit. Wealth is a habit. Say it until your mind understands it. Say it until your hands live it. Say it until your choices prove it. Say it until your future is different, because the truth is this. Means the person you become through your habits will either open the door to wealth or keep it closed. So become the kind of person who opens doors. Become the kind of person who keeps growing. Become the kind of person who no longer needs the world's applause to feel worthy. Become the kind of person whose inner life is strong enough to carry outer success. Become the kind of person who can be trusted with more because you have learned to be faithful with less. And when that happens, when discipline becomes your companion, when purpose becomes your compass, when self-respect becomes your standard, when emotional independence becomes your shield, when growth becomes your addiction, when validation loses its grip, then you will not merely chase wealth, you will live it. You will build it. You will become it. So go from this place with fire in your chest and order in your habits. Go from this place with your head high and your standards higher. Go from this place ready to build a life that does not need to be loud to be powerful, does not need to be flashy to be free, does not need to be approved by the crowd to be blessed by the truth. Take one step, then another, then another. And let the world learn what happens when a disciplined soul decides that wealth is not a dream to be admired, but a habit to be practiced. Thank you.